it's not my, I'm just drawing these, and the topic today, class, is the topic that we all love so much, sex. It's amazing. Really, there's a chapter in my book, and we'll get to it in a couple weeks, on randomness. And this is a great example of randomness. How it clashes with our sense of order, which I argue is evolutionary, an evolutionary artifact. How we, as a class, would like to talk about anything but, and yet, the reason I'm going to bring it up again is because I've been thinking about the discussion, and I would like, I don't know, I would love for have somebody argue for me why they would believe, not why they believe that there's parameters or rules for sex, according to a Christian worldview, but why they believe that you could actually listen to a book that was written so long ago and that has imprisoned us in this religious system that I thought we could escape from in the university, and yet I hear seniors that will talk still from a, quote, Christian worldview. So I want to talk about sex as something that ought to be, we ought to be freed from the prison of a biblical worldview. And tell me your name.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. Doctor.
Thank you. Jonathan.
The other gay guy in the class.
See, that's why we have this class, is to help people like Matthew.
I'm sure
Get
Matthew
with
is
the
very
program.
careful and stuff,
Yeah.
but-
Okay, Jonathan, you had something to say about sex or the Bible?
Oh, that's where is your point of disagreement with the validity of the Bible, or more what the Bible's guidelines sets, or more around the issue of sex?
Mm-hmm.
All three of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of built the structure. I think we could talk about, whether sex is good or not. But I keep hearing that I keep hearing Christians talk about the Bible as the reasons for the limitations on something that I see as very natural.
Oh, I could provide some arguments, not from the Bible, on why sex should have a limiting factor.
Oh my goodness.
Well, like I believe you said
Wow.
before, 3 weeks ago, that you believe there is nothing wrong with things such as porn.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with these is actions like porn and promiscuity devalue the sense of sex when it comes to marriage or commitment. Because with these things, it encourages more things like one-night stands and unfaithfulness. See, the real issue is not in sex and just sleeping around, but in the issue of how sex relates to marriage. Because when all these issues add up, and when you finally get to marriage having slept with 10 other people, the divorce rate probably will be higher, as most divorces end because of acts such as adultery. Because if you are addicted to porn and other things like porn and promiscuity, you're not going to have a proper natural view of sex, actually. You're going to have a more manufactured view of it. But in the issue when we concern sex to marriage, sex should be brought up only in marriage because it is part of not the sole purpose of marriage, but it is some of the things that are inherent in marriage and bring people together.
Wow, good timing. Well, interesting. You bring up the issue of pornography. Could you tell me again why you say the use of pornography has a bad effect on marriage? But isn't because we're sexual beings? Before pornography was so available on the internet, there was more. I think there was more of a tendency to repress something that was natural, and I would argue that pent up sexual tension actually creates much worse trouble than to freely find an outlet for that. Because not everybody has the kind of marriage that you're talking about, a kind of relationship. Should a person not have sex because they're not married? I mean,
Yes,
and
the
again,
person
that's
should
why I
not
would
have sex
argue.
because it's not married. Because they're not married.
Okay, argue from without the Bible, and then I would like, if you wouldn't mind, argue why you believe the Bible's true too. Just give me. I would just love to hear a Christian who doesn't just quote the Bible, but actually tells me why they believe it.
Well, if you're to look even from an evolutionary standpoint, the whole purpose of sex was actually reproduction to begin with, and the procreation of a certain race. In sociological terms, we can see that sex should be used to create families and have children. But the problem is with this is when you're sleeping around with everyone, you either have the option to get an abortion or even use something that's unnatural, such as a condom. Condoms aren't natural things inherent to sex. Sex is natural in itself, but condoms aren't. Because along naturally with sex comes the responsibility of having a family and having children. However, the unnatural part comes when we have things such as abortion every time that you have sex and you don't want to have the responsibility of being a parent. That's why if sex is reserved strictly to marriages and starting families in this case, then you have you actually have more of a natural place for sex than an unnatural place such as abortion.
Well, let me stop you there for a second. You're not Roman Catholic, are you? Just not
I'm not.
personal. You're not. It sounds in a way that you are, that sex is, as Augustine pushed, at least I haven't read him, but what I'm told, is that his belief, which became the Catholic mantra, was that sex was for reproductive purposes only. Which sounds like what you're saying, that would mean that a couple, because didn't you say that sex evolution would even show that sex is for reproduction? Therefore, should a couple not have sex? Why should they, or should they always have sex with the same person once they go past childbearing years? So they're past childbearing years, should they not have sex, John?
No, I'm simply saying that since reproduction is a result of it, we have to sex is a good thing, but too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. We kind of have to restrict what we do with it, or else the results of it are bad.
Okay.
Because since we can't just say we have to look at the action and not care at the results, we have to also look into moderating the actions because they provide these results.
Okay, but is sex good even if a couple is infertile?
I would say in the concept of marriage, yes.
Okay, and that's what I want to know. And why do you say within marriage? Why do you say sex for pleasure is good within marriage?
Then the issue goes more into the issue of marriage, and that's more where I would draw a biblical view of.
Okay, give me how much time do we have?
20 seconds.
Let's go to Camille.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just if you have a 5-second question.
5-second question. So I've read some of your Bible before, and I know that your God kind of has ordained sex to be like a really wonderful thing, and He actually, promotes it and says that it's supposed to be a great connection between two people. But before you get married, don't you need to know if you have even that connection before you start to commit to this one person for the rest of your life?
If you are sure to be committed, a lot of Christians will probably disagree with me in this view, but I believe it is okay to have sex before marriage if you are completely committed to that person.
That's interesting. All right. So Jonathan.